Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with his 6 compound eyes. The crystalline formations on his back glowed with a soft blue light as he studied the movements of his fleet. 2,000 ships stretched across the void of space, their hulls gleaming with the same crystal technology that made up his body. "Sir?" called his tactical officer, her voice echoing through the bridge. "The Nexari fleet has been detected at the edge of the Meridian Nebula. They have assembled nearly 2,000 ships as well." Kethver nodded slowly. This was the moment he had been waiting for his entire life. The final battle in a war that had raged for over 300 years. A war that had consumed entire star systems and killed billions of beings on both sides. "How long until we reach the battle zone?" he asked. 6 hours at current speed, sir." 6 hours until the end of everything. Kethver had been fighting the Nexari Empire since he was a young officer, and his father had fought them before him. His grandfather had died in the Battle of Xerion Prime, and his great-grandfather had witnessed the very first clash between their species. The Corvani, Republic, and the Nexari Empire had been enemies for so long that no one could remember how. The war had started. Some said it began over territorial disputes. Others claimed it was about resources or ancient religious differences. The truth was lost in centuries of blood and destruction. "Display the enemy fleet composition," Kethver ordered. The holographic display shifted to show the Nexari vessels. They were unlike anything else in the galaxy, looking more like living creatures than machines. Their hulls were organic, covered in what appeared to be skin and bone. Some ships had tentacles that writhed through space, while others had wings that flapped slowly as they moved. "Typical Nexari formation," observed his tactical officer. "Heavy biocruisers in the center, supported by swarm ships and living fighters. They are using the standard defensive pattern we have seen for the past 50 years. Kethver studied the display carefully. The Nexari ships were disgusting to look at, but he had learned to respect their effectiveness. The organic vessels could heal damage in real time, adapt to new weapons, and reproduce themselves if given enough time and resources. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from General Vex High of the Nexari Empire. He is requesting a final meeting before the battle." Kethver laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "After 300 years, he wants to talk? Put him through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the hideous form of General Vex High. The Nexari leader was a grotesque mixture of flesh and machine, with tubes and wires running through his body. His eyes were compound lenses that reflected the light in disturbing ways. "Admiral Kethver," Vex High said, his voice a wet, gurgling sound. "We meet again at last." "General," Kethver replied coldly, "I assume you are calling to surrender your fleet and spare your people further suffering." "Surrender?" Vex High laughed, and the sound made several Corvani officers wince. "I am calling to offer you one final chance to withdraw. Your crystal ships are beautiful, but they will shatter against our living vessels just as they always have." "We shall see about that," Kethver said. "Our new weapon systems have been specifically designed to counter your biological technology. Your ships may heal, but they cannot regrow from nothing. And our new bioforms can adapt to any energy weapon you possess," Vex High countered. "Your crystals are strong, but organic matter is flexible. We have learned to bend where you can. Only break." The two commanders stared at each other across the void, representatives of species that had fought for so long they had evolved specifically to counter each other's advantages. The Corvani had developed harder crystals, more powerful energy, weapons, and stronger shields. The Nexari had created more adaptable bioforms, faster healing rates, and more resilient organic systems. "This ends today," Kethver said finally. "One way or another, this war will be over. On that, we agree, Vexai replied. When this battle is finished, there will be only one species left to claim victory. The transmission ended, leaving Kethver alone with his thoughts. He walked to the viewing port and looked out at the stars, thinking about all the worlds that had been destroyed in this endless conflict. The Corvani had once been a peaceful species, more interested in art and philosophy than warfare. The Nexari had been explorers and scientists, seeking knowledge throughout the galaxy. But 3 centuries of war had changed both species. The Corvani had become master warriors, their entire society focused on military strength and crystal technology. The Nexari had transformed themselves into living weapons, their bodies modified for combat and their ships grown rather than built. Sir, called his science officer, we are detecting some unusual energy signatures in the outer system. There appears to be a small vessel of unknown design. Kethver turned away from the viewing port. Unknown design? Could it be a new Nexari weapon? Negative. Sir, the energy patterns are unlike anything we have seen from either the Nexari or our own technology. The vessel appears to be very small, perhaps 1/10 the size of our smallest frigate. A scout ship from some other species? Kethver mused. We have heard rumors of new civilizations emerging in the Outer Rim territories. Should we investigate, sir? Kethver considered this. The final battle was only hours away, and he could not afford to be distracted by curiosities. No, whatever it is too small to matter. Focus all sensors on the Nexari fleet. I want to know their exact position and formation when we engage. The unknown vessel was quickly forgotten as the Corvani fleet prepared for battle. Weapons were charged, shields were raised, and crystal formations throughout the ships began to glow with stored energy. Every warrior on every ship knew that this was the moment they had trained for their entire lives. In the depths of space, the Nexari fleet made their own preparations. Bioforms were awakened from their dormant states, organic weapons were fed and nourished, and the living ships began to pulse with anticipation. The creatures that served as their vessels could sense the approaching battle, and they were eager to feed on the energy of their enemies. Between the 2 massive fleets, the small unknown vessel continued its lonely journey through space. Its crew watched the preparations for war with growing concern, knowing that they were about to witness the most destructive battle in galactic history. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of 2 entire civilizations. Thousands of ships, millions of warriors, and weapons capable of destroying planets were about to clash in the void of space. The survivors would claim victory, while the defeated would face extinction. But neither side suspected that the outcome of their ancient war would be decided not by superior firepower or better tactics, but by the arrival of a species they had never encountered before. A species that had a very different idea about how conflicts should be resolved. The final battle of the Corvani-Nexari War was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same again. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the human diplomatic vessel Peacekeeper, watching the long-range sensors with growing alarm. The displays showed thousands of ships moving toward each other in what could only be described as the largest military formation he had ever seen. Kate, are you getting anything on the communication channels? He asked his communications officer. Kate Williams adjusted her headset and shook her head. Nothing but military chatter, sir. Both fleets are maintaining radio silence except for tactical communications. They're not interested in talking to anyone. Turner ran his hand through his brown hair, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The Peacekeeper was a small ship with a crew of only 30 people, but it represented humanity's first attempt to make contact with the galactic community. What they had found was a war beyond anything they had imagined. Dan, give me a tactical analysis, Turner said to his science officer. Dan Martinez looked up from his instruments, his face pale. Sir, we're looking at approximately 4,000 ships total. The energy readings are off the charts. Each of those large vessels has enough firepower to destroy a small planet. Turner felt his heart sink. Earth had been monitoring radio transmissions from this part of the galaxy for several years, but they had never realized the scale of the conflict. The fragments of communication they had intercepted suggested a war, but nothing had prepared them for this. How long have they been fighting? He asked. Based on the historical data we've been able to piece together, this war has been going on for over 3 centuries, replied Martinez. These two species have been destroying each other for longer than humans have had spaceflight. Chief Engineer Lisa Thompson looked up from her station. Sir, we're detecting massive energy buildups in both fleets. They're charging their weapons for what looks like a major engagement. Turner made a decision that would change everything. Kate, open a channel to both fleets. Broadcast on all frequencies. Sir, are you sure? We don't know how they'll react to contact from an unknown species. We have to try, Turner said firmly. We can't just stand here and watch 2 civilizations destroy each other. Williams nodded and began working her controls. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting to both fleets. Turner stepped forward, knowing that his next words might be the most important of his life. This is Captain Alex Turner of the Earth vessel Peacekeeper. We are representatives of the human species, and we are here to offer our assistance in resolving this conflict. He paused, waiting for a response, but there was only silence from both fleets. We have been monitoring your communications for several years, he continued. We understand that you have been at war for a long time, but we believe that all conflicts can be resolved through peaceful negotiation. We are willing to serve as neutral mediators if both sides are interested in ending this bloodshed. Still no response. Turner could see on the tactical display that both fleets were continuing their approach toward each other, completely ignoring his transmission. Sir, called Martinez from his station, I'm detecting increased energy signatures from both fleets. They're preparing for battle. Turner tried again, making his voice more urgent. Please, both fleets, we are asking you to stop and consider what you're about to do. The destruction you are planning will accomplish nothing except the deaths of millions of beings. There has to be another way. This time, there was a response. The communication screen flickered to life, showing the crystalline features of Admiral Kethver. Unknown vessel, the Corvani commander said, his voice cold and dismissive. You are interfering in a military operation. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Turner felt a moment of hope. At least they were talking. Admiral, we don't want to interfere. We want to help. This war has been going on for centuries. Surely there must be a way to end it without more killing. You know nothing about this conflict, Kethva replied. The Nexari are a plague upon the galaxy. They must be eliminated completely, or they will continue to spread their corruption to other worlds. The screen split, showing the grotesque form of General Vex High on the other side. The crystalbacks speak of corruption? He said with a wet laugh. They are the ones who have turned entire star systems into lifeless monuments to their dead civilization. See, Kethver said to Turner, they are beyond reason. They are animals pretending to be intelligent beings. We are what we were forced to become, Vex High snarled. Your people started this war with their arrogance and their belief that they were superior to all other life forms. Turner watched the two commanders argue, seeing the hatred that had built up over centuries of conflict. But he also saw something else. Exhaustion. Both species had been fighting for so long that they had forgotten how to do anything else. Listen to yourselves, he said, interrupting their argument. You're so focused on destroying each other that you've forgotten what you're fighting for. What will victory accomplish? Even if one of you wins, what will be left? Victory will mean the survival of our species, Kethver replied. That is all that matters. And what about your culture? Your art? Your philosophy? What about the things that make your species unique and valuable? Turner asked. For a moment, both commanders were silent. Turner could see something flicker in their eyes, perhaps a memory of what their people had been before the war consumed everything. It is too late for such questions, Vexai said finally. We have gone too far to turn back now. Too much blood has been spilled, too many worlds destroyed. This ends only when one of us is gone forever. Captain Turner, Kethver said, his voice slightly softer, your species is young and naive. You do not understand the realities of galactic warfare. Sometimes destruction is the only path to peace. Turner felt desperation creeping into his voice. There has to be another way. We humans have fought wars too, but we learned that the only real victory is when both sides can live in peace. Your species has never faced an enemy like this, Vexai said. When you do, you will understand why we must fight. The transmission ended, leaving Turner staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crew worked silently, their faces showing the same despair he felt. Sir, called Thompson from her station, both fleets are accelerating toward each other. Estimated time to weapons range is 2 hours. Turner slumped in his captain's chair, feeling the weight of failure. He had come here hoping to prevent the war, but instead he was about to witness the largest battle in galactic history. Kate, send a priority message to Earth, he ordered. Tell them that first contact has been made, but the situation is beyond our current capabilities. We need help. What kind of help, sir? Williams asked. Turner looked at the tactical display, showing the massive fleets approaching each other. Like two tsunamis about to collide. I don't know. Something that can stop this madness before it destroys everything. The Peacekeeper retreated to a safe distance, its crew watching helplessly as two ancient civilizations prepared to fight there. Final battle. Turner had hoped that humanity's first contact with alien life would be a moment of wonder and discovery. Instead, it had become a front-row seat to genocide. Sir, Martinez said quietly, should we stay and observe or return to Earth? Turner considered this. Every instinct told him to flee, to get his crew away from the coming destruction. But someone needed to witness what was about to happen. Someone needed to remember the cost of letting hatred consume entire civilizations. We stay, he said finally. Whatever happens here, humanity needs to know about it. We need to understand what we're dealing with in this galaxy. The two fleets continued their approach, their weapons charging with enough energy to sterilize entire worlds. Neither side showed any sign of backing down, and Turner realized that he was about to watch two species commit mutual suicide in the name of victory. But deep in his heart, he still held onto a thin thread of hope. Somewhere in the vast universe, there had to be a way to stop this madness. There had to be a power that could force even the most stubborn enemies to put down their weapons and talk. He just hoped that power would arrive before it was too late. The first shots of the final battle lit up the darkness of space like the birth of a new star. Admiral Kethver watched from his flagship as thousands of energy beams crossed the void between the two fleets, each one carrying enough power to vaporize a city. All ships maintain formation, he commanded. Focus fire on their biocruisers. We need to destroy their command structure. The Corvani fleet moved with perfect precision, their crystalline ships gleaming as they released devastating beams of concentrated energy. The weapons had been developed over 3 centuries of warfare, designed specifically to counter the Nexary's organic technology, but the Nexary were ready for them. General Vexai's living ships absorbed the energy attacks, their biohulls glowing, as they converted the weapon fire into raw power for their own systems. The organic vessels twisted and writhed through space, avoiding the worst of the damage while returning fire with their own terrifying weapons. "Sir," called Kethver's tactical officer, "the Nexari are using their new acid spore cannons. They're eating through our shields." Kethver watched as green clouds of organic matter struck his ships, dissolving their energy barriers like acid through metal. The Nexari bioweapons were unlike anything in the galaxy, capable of adapting to any defense and finding new ways to cause destruction. "Deploy the quantum resonance cannons," he ordered. "Let's see how their living ships handle molecular disruption." The Corvani's newest weapons fired streams of energy that attacked matter at the atomic level. Several Nexari ships began to break apart as their organic structures lost cohesion, but the living vessels quickly adapted, growing new defensive layers to resist the quantum attacks. On the Nexari flagship, General Vex-High watched his ships take damage with cold satisfaction. "They are using their best weapons already," he said to his officers. "Release the swarm fighters. Let them taste our newest creations." Thousands of small organic vessels poured from the larger Nexari ships like insects from a disturbed nest. These fighters were barely larger than a human, but each one was a living weapon designed to tear apart enemy ships from the inside. The swarm fighters moved with terrifying speed, their bioengines allowing them to change direction instantly. They swarmed over the Corvani ships, their acid-tipped tendrils eating through crystal hulls, and their explosive organs detonating inside the enemy vessels. "Sir, we're losing ships on the left flank," reported Kethver's tactical officer. "The swarm fighters are overwhelming our point defenses." Kethvar activated his fleet's emergency protocols. "All ships, activate crystal storm generators. Clear the swarm." The Corvani ships released clouds of razor-sharp crystal fragments that sliced through the organic fighters like a meat grinder. But for every swarm fighter destroyed, 2 more took its place. The Nexari had been preparing for this battle for decades, breeding their bioweapons specifically for this moment. Captain Turner watched the battle from the bridge of the Peacekeeper, his face pale with horror. The space around the fleets had become a nightmare of energy beams, explosions, and debris. Ships on both sides were dying by the dozens, their crews vaporized in seconds. "Sir," called Dan Martinez from his science station, "I'm reading massive casualties on both sides. At this rate, both fleets will be completely destroyed within hours." Turner gripped the armrests of his chair, feeling helpless as he watched 2 civilizations tear each other apart. "Any response to our communications?" "Nothing," replied Kate Williams. "Both fleets are completely focused on the battle. They're not even acknowledging our presence." The battle raged across multiple star systems, spreading out as individual. Ship duels broke away from the main engagement. The Corvani and Nexari had been fighting each other for so long that they knew every tactic and counter-tactic. Neither side could gain a decisive advantage. "Sir," called Lisa Thompson from her engineering station, "I'm detecting some kind of new weapon being deployed by the Nexari. It's huge." On the main display, they could see a massive organic structure emerging from the center of the Nexari fleet. It was the size of a small moon, covered in writhing tentacles and pulsing with an evil green light. "What is that thing?" Turner asked. "I don't know, sir," Martinez replied, his voice shaking. "But it's generating more energy than their entire fleet combined." General Vex-High smiled as his ultimate weapon powered up. The biostructure was the result of 50 years of genetic engineering, a living weapon designed to end the war with a single devastating attack. "Target the Corvani homeworld," he commanded. "It's time to finish this once and for all." But Admiral Kethver was not defenseless. As the Nexari superweapon charged, the Corvani fleet formed a perfect crystalline formation. Their ships began to resonate with harmonic frequencies, creating a devastating weapon of their own. "All ships, prepare for Unity Protocol," Kethvar ordered. "We will show them the true power of crystalline technology." The Corvani ships merged their energy fields, creating a massive beam of pure force that could crack planets in half. The two superweapons faced each other across the void, preparing to unleash destruction on a scale the galaxy had never seen. "Sir," called Turner's tactical officer, "both weapons are charging. If they fire simultaneously, the explosion will destroy everything within 3 light years." Turner realized with horror that they were not just watching a battle anymore. They were about to witness an explosion that would eliminate both species entirely, along with any other life in the surrounding systems. "All hands, prepare for emergency jump," he ordered. "We need to get out of here before those weapons fire." But even as he gave the order, Turner knew it was too late. The Peacekeeper was too close to the battle zone, and their engines were not fast enough to escape the coming destruction. The two superweapons reached full power simultaneously. The Nexari biostructure pulsed with green energy, while the Corvani formation blazed with crystal light. Both weapons prepared to fire, ready to unleash forces that would end the war by destroying everything. 10 seconds to firing, reported Martinez. Both weapons are locked onto each other. Turner closed his eyes, knowing that he was about to witness the end of 2 entire civilizations. The war that had raged for 3 centuries was about to end in mutual annihilation. 5 seconds, Martinez continued. Energy levels are off the charts. Turner opened his eyes, wanting to see the final moment of this ancient conflict. The two superweapons blazed with power, ready to fire at each other across the void. 3 seconds. 2, 1. But just as both weapons reached the moment of firing, something impossible happened. A new energy signature appeared on the edge of the battle zone, small, but somehow more powerful than anything they had seen. "Sir," called Williams, her voice filled with amazement. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth. They're saying that help is on the way." Turner looked at the tactical display, seeing a single small contact approaching the battle zone. What kind of help could possibly stop this? His answer came in the form of a ship, unlike anything in the galaxy. It was sleek and silver, radiating an energy field that seemed to bend space around it. As it approached the battle zone, both superweapons began to flicker and lose power. "What's happening?" Turner demanded. "I don't know, sir," Martinez replied. "But whatever that new ship is doing, it's affecting both fleets. Their weapons are losing power." The impossible was happening. A single small ship was somehow interfering with the largest battle in galactic history. Turner felt a spark of hope ignite in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a way to stop this war. The human ship Harbinger dropped out of hyperspace like a silver arrow, cutting through the chaos of battle. Captain Sam Robinson stood on the bridge, watching the massive fleets tear each other apart with weapons that could destroy worlds. "Amy, what's our tactical situation?" he asked his tactical officer. Amy Chun studied her displays, her face illuminated by the glow of sensor readings. "Sir, we have approximately 3,000 ships engaged in combat. Both sides are using super weapons that are approaching critical energy levels." Robinson nodded grimly. He had been expecting this. The diplomatic mission had failed, just as Earth Command had predicted. Now it was up to the Harbinger to prevent the complete destruction of 2 entire civilizations. "Dr. Davis, is the quantum field generator ready?" he asked. Chief Scientist Dr. Paul Davis looked up from his station, his fingers dancing over complex controls. "All systems are operational, sir. The field projectors are charged and ready to deploy. But I have to warn you, we've never tested this technology on such a massive scale." "Will it work?" Robinson asked. "In theory, yes. The quantum field should neutralize all energy-based weapons within a 3 light-year radius. But the power requirements are enormous. We'll be drawing energy directly from the controlled singularity in our engine core. Robinson turned to his engineering specialist. Maria, can our power systems handle the load? Maria Garcia checked her readings carefully. The singularity core is stable, sir. We should be able to maintain the field for several hours if necessary. But after that, we'll need to shut down for cooling and maintenance. Several hours should be enough, Robinson said. Amy, take us into the center of the battle zone. We need to be positioned where the field will affect both fleets equally. The Harbinger moved toward the heart of the conflict, its advanced engines allowing it to slip between the massive ships undetected. The vessel was small compared to the alien battleships, but its hull incorporated technology that made it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Sir, called Chun from her station, I'm detecting massive energy buildups from both superweapons. They're about to fire. Robinson could see the terrible weapons on his main screen. The Nexari biostructure pulsed with green energy, while the Kravani crystal formation blazed with white light. Both weapons contained enough power to sterilize entire star systems. How long until they fire? He asked. 30 seconds, sir, Chun replied. Energy levels are approaching critical mass. Robinson made his decision. Dr. Davis, activate the quantum field generator. Full power, maximum range. Sir, we haven't reached optimal position yet, Davis warned. The field might not cover the entire battle zone. Do it now, Robinson ordered. We can't wait any longer. Davis's hands flew over his controls, activating systems that represented the pinnacle of human scientific achievement. The quantum field generator had been developed in secret, using principles of physics that most species had never even imagined. Field generator online, Davis reported. Quantum cascade beginning in 3.2.1. The effect was immediate and stunning. A wave of invisible energy swept out from the Harbinger, spreading across the entire battle zone at the speed of light. As it passed through the warring fleets, something impossible happened. Every weapon in the battle zone simply stopped working. Admiral Kethvar stared at his tactical display in shock as his superweapon powered down without warning. What happened? Why did the Unity protocol fail? I don't know, sir, his tactical officer replied, panic in his voice. All our weapon systems are offline. The energy just disappeared. General Vex High was experiencing the same phenomenon. His biostructure had been moments away from firing its planet-killing beam when the energy suddenly dissipated like smoke in the wind. Report, he demanded. What happened to our weapons? All bioweapons are dormant, sir, his officer replied. They're not responding to any commands. It's as if they've been put to sleep. Throughout both fleets, the same scene was playing out. Energy weapons refused to fire. Projectile weapons lost all momentum, and explosive devices became as harmless as children's toys. The most devastating battle in galactic history had been turned into a gathering of helpless ships. Sir, called Chun from the Harbinger's bridge, both fleets are attempting to restart their weapons. They're not succeeding. Robinson activated the communication system. Open a channel to both fleets, all frequencies. Channel open, sir, reported. The communications officer. This is Captain Sam Robinson of the Earth vessel Harbinger, he announced. Your weapons have been neutralized by quantum field technology. The field will remain active until you agree to peaceful negotiations. The response was immediate and furious. Both Admiral Kethvar and General Vex High appeared on the communication screen, their faces showing a mixture of rage and confusion. What have you done? Kethvar demanded, his crystalline features blazing with anger. You have interfered in a lawful military operation. Lawful? Robinson asked calmly. You were about to commit genocide. Both of you are preparing to destroy entire civilizations. That's not warfare. That's madness. You don't understand, Vex High snarled. This conflict has been raging for centuries. We cannot simply stop fighting because some alien species tells us to. You can, and you will, Robinson replied. The quantum field makes it impossible for you to harm each other. Your weapons are useless as long as the field remains active. How long can you maintain this field? Kethver asked, his tactical mind already working on the problem. As long as necessary, Robinson lied smoothly. He couldn't tell them about the power limitations, or they would simply wait for the field to fail. This is an act of war against both our species, Vex-High declared. When we find a way to counter your technology, we will destroy you along with our enemies. You're welcome to try, Robinson said. But first, you're going to listen to what we have to say. He gestured to Dr. Davis, who activated another system. Suddenly, the bridge of the Harbinger was filled with holographic displays showing the history of the Corvani-Nexari conflict. We've been studying your war for years, Robinson continued. We know how it started, how it escalated, and what it's cost both your species. 300 years of fighting, billions of deaths, hundreds of worlds destroyed. And for what? The displays showed images of dead planets, destroyed cities, and the gradual militarization of both species. Robinson watched as the two alien commanders stared at the evidence of their war's terrible cost. You've both forgotten what you were fighting for, he said. You've turned your entire civilizations into weapons, and now you don't know how to be anything else. The Nexari started this war, Kethvar said, but his voice lacked conviction. The Corvani were the aggressors, Vex-High countered, but he sounded equally uncertain. It doesn't matter who started it, Robinson said firmly. What matters is that you're both about to finish it by destroying yourselves. Is that really what you want? Is mutual annihilation worth preserving your pride? Both commanders fell silent, staring at the holographic displays that showed the true cost of their endless war. For the first time in centuries, they were forced to confront the reality of what they had become. The field will remain active, Robinson continued, until you agree to meaningful peace negotiations. You can sit here forever, unable to harm each other, or you can begin the process of ending this war. And if we refuse? Kethver asked. Then you'll spend the rest of your lives floating in space, watching your people slowly starve as your supply. Lines fail. The choice is yours. Robinson cut the transmission, leaving both alien commanders to consider their options. Around him, his crew monitored the quantum field, making sure it remained stable and effective. Sir, called Davis from his station. The field is holding steady. Both fleets are completely neutralized. Good, Robinson replied. Now we wait and see if they're smart enough to choose peace over pride. Outside the Harbinger, 4,000 warships drifted helplessly in space, their crews struggling to understand what had happened to them. The most powerful weapons in the Ao galaxy had been turned into harmless decorations by a single small ship from a species they had barely noticed. The age of Corvani-Nexari warfare was over. The question now was whether either species would be wise enough to accept that fact. For 6 hours, the two massive fleets drifted in space like sleeping giants. Admiral Kethvar paced his bridge, his crystalline form reflecting the dim emergency lighting. Every few minutes, his crew tried to restart their weapons, but the quantum field made their efforts useless. Sir, called his tactical officer, we've tried everything. The field is too strong. Nothing works. Kethver stared at the small human ship on his display. The Harbinger sat peacefully in the center of the battle zone, its presence a constant reminder that the war was no longer in his control. Get me a private channel to General Vex-High, he ordered. Sir? His communications officer asked, surprised. You heard me. I want to speak with the Nexari commander. On the Nexari flagship, General Vex-High was dealing with his own frustrations. His bioweapons had gone completely dormant, refusing to respond to any commands. The living ships themselves seemed confused, unable to understand why they could no longer fight. General, called his communications officer. We're receiving a transmission from the Corvani flagship. Admiral Kethver wishes to speak with you privately. Vex High considered this. In 300 years of warfare, he had never had a private conversation with a Corvani commander. But then again, he had never been completely helpless before either. Put him through, he said. The screen flickered, showing Kethvar's crystalline features. For a moment, the two ancient enemies stared at each other across the void. General, Kethvar said finally, I believe we need to talk. About what? Vex High asked suspiciously. About the fact that we're both trapped here until we agree to negotiate with these humans. About the fact that our fleets are sitting here helpless while our people wait for. Used to return home. Vex High was quiet for a long moment. What are you proposing? I'm proposing that we listen to what the humans have to say. Not because we want to, but because we have no choice. You would trust them? I don't trust anyone, Kethver replied. But I trust that they want something from us, and that gives us room to negotiate. Meanwhile, Captain Robinson was meeting with his senior staff in the Harbinger's conference room. The quantum field was holding steady, but he knew they couldn't maintain it forever. Sir, said Dr. Davis, we're at about 60% power. The field is stable, but we'll need to shut down for maintenance in another 12 hours. Will that be enough time? Robinson asked. It'll have to be, replied Operations Officer Helen Martinez. We've prepared a detailed peace proposal based on our analysis of both species. If they're willing to negotiate, we can have a basic framework in place within hours. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Tony Stewart looked up from his medical reports. Sir, I've been analyzing the casualty reports from both fleets. They've lost nearly 40% of their forces in just a few hours of fighting. If we hadn't intervened, both species would have been extinct by now. Robinson nodded grimly. That's exactly why we're here. Amy, any signs that either fleet is willing to talk? Tactical Officer Chun checked her displays. Both flagships have been exchanging private communications for the past hour. That's never happened before in recorded history. Good, Robinson said. Maybe they're finally ready to be reasonable. His communication system chimed. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from both flagships. They're requesting a meeting. Robinson smiled. Put them through. The screen showed both alien commanders, their faces grim, but no longer openly hostile. Captain Robinson, said Admiral Kethver, we are prepared to discuss terms. What kind of terms? Robinson asked. The terms for ending this field and allowing us to return to our home systems, General Vex High replied. We cannot remain here indefinitely. The field will be lifted when you sign a binding peace treaty, Robinson said firmly. Not before. What? Would such a treaty include? Kethvar asked. Robinson activated a holographic display showing the human peace proposal. Complete cessation of hostilities between both species. Withdrawal of all military forces to your respective home systems. Establishment of a neutral zone monitored by human peacekeeping forces. And most importantly, regular diplomatic meetings to resolve any future disputes. Both commanders studied the proposal carefully. It was far more generous than either had expected. You would serve as mediators? Vex High asked. We would serve as guarantors of the peace, Robinson replied. Any violation of the treaty would result in immediate intervention by human forces. And if we refuse? Kethver asked. Then you sit here until your supplies run out and your crews starve, Robinson said bluntly. The choice is yours. The two alien commanders looked at each other, then back at Robinson. 300 years of warfare had brought them to this moment, trapped and helpless, forced to choose between peace and mutual destruction. We need time to consider, Vex High said. You have 1 hour, Robinson replied. After that, we begin, reducing power to the quantum field. Your weapons will start working again, and you can resume destroying each other. The transmission ended, leaving both commanders to make the most important decision in their species' history. On the Corvani flagship, Admiral Kethver called his senior staff together. "What are your thoughts?" he asked. "Sir," said his tactical officer, "our fleet is in no condition to continue fighting. We've lost nearly half our ships, and morale is at an all-time low. The humans have superior technology," added his science officer. "If they can neutralize our weapons so easily, what other capabilities do they possess? More importantly," said his communications officer, "what happens to our people if we don't return home? Who will defend the Corvani Republic?" Kethver considered this. The war had consumed his entire life, but now he was forced to think about what came after the war. On the Nexari flagship, General Vex High was having similar conversations with his staff. The living ships themselves seemed to be communicating their exhaustion, their biosystems stressed beyond their limits. "The hive mind is sending distress signals," reported his biotechnician. "The ships want to return to the breeding grounds for healing and regeneration. Our people are tired of war," added his intelligence officer. "The last surveys showed that civilian populations on both sides are ready for peace." Vex High stared out at the stars, thinking about the worlds that had been destroyed, the lives that had been lost, and the future that his species might have if the fighting finally ended. The hour passed quickly. When the communication channel opened again, both commanders looked older, more tired, but also more resolved. "Captain Robinson," said Admiral Kethver, "the Corvani Republic accepts your terms." "The Nexari Empire also accepts," said General Vex High. "We are ready to sign the peace treaty." Robinson felt a surge of relief. "Excellent. We'll begin the formal ceremony immediately." Within hours, representatives from both fleets were aboard the Harbinger, signing the most important document in galactic history. The peace treaty was simple but comprehensive, establishing the framework for ending 3 centuries of warfare. As the last signatures were added to the treaty, Robinson gave the order to shut down the quantum field. Slowly, power returned to the weapon systems of both fleets, but neither side made any move to attack. "This is Captain Robinson to all ships," he announced. "The peace treaty is now in effect. All vessels are ordered to return to their home systems immediately." The 2 massive fleets began their long journey home, their crews still stunned by the sudden end to the war. Many of them had never known peace, had never imagined a galaxy where Corvani and Nexari were not trying to destroy each other. Captain Turner, watching from the Peacekeeper, felt tears in his eyes as he saw the fleets separating peacefully. "It's over," he whispered. "The war is actually over." "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Harbinger." Robinson's face appeared on the screen, tired but smiling. "Captain Turner, the situation is resolved. Both fleets are returning home under the terms of the peace treaty." "How did you do it?" Turner asked. "How did you stop the most powerful weapons in the galaxy?" "We didn't stop them," Robinson replied. "We made them irrelevant. Sometimes the best way to end a fight is to make it impossible." To continue. As the Harbinger prepared to depart, Robinson looked out at the empty space where the battle had raged. The debris field would serve as a reminder of what had almost happened, but also of what had been prevented. "Sir?" called Dr. Davis from his station. "Earth Command is requesting a full report." "Tell them the mission was successful," Robinson said. "The galaxy's longest war is over, and humanity has established itself as a peacekeeping force." "What's our next assignment?" asked Chun. Robinson smiled. "There are reports of conflicts in the Andromeda sector. It seems the galaxy has need of our particular brand of diplomacy." The Harbinger jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a peaceful star system where moments before, two civilizations had been preparing to destroy each other. The age of Corvani-Nexari warfare was over, ended not by superior firepower, but by the simple act of making war impossible. Throughout the galaxy, word spread of the humans who had ended the ancient conflict with a single ship. Some species were grateful, others were fearful, but all of them understood that the balance of power had shifted. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians of peace. And in a universe filled with violence and conflict, that made them the most powerful. The message from space arrived on a Tuesday morning. Ambassador Claire Watson was drinking her coffee in the United Nations building when her assistant burst into her office. "Claire, you need to see this," the assistant said, holding up a tablet. "We just received a transmission from deep space. It's from aliens." Claire set down her coffee cup. She had been Earth's lead diplomat for 10 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. "Are you sure it's real?" NASA confirmed it. "The signal is coming from outside our solar system." And Claire, they're speaking English. The alien message was simple and friendly. They called themselves the Galactic Council, a group of peaceful species who worked together to help younger civilizations join the galactic community. They wanted to meet with humanity's leaders to discuss friendship and cooperation. "We have been watching your species for some time," the message said. "You have reached the level of development where you can join our great community. We offer you peace, advanced technology, and protection from the dangers of space." Claire called an emergency meeting of world leaders. Within hours, presidents and prime ministers were gathered in the UN Assembly Hall, all looking at the same incredible message. "This changes everything," said President Kate Johnson of the United States. "We're not alone in the universe." "The question is," said the British Prime Minister, "what do we do about it?" Claire stood up. "We do what diplomats do. We talk to them. We learn what they want and what they're offering." The Galactic Council responded quickly to Earth's reply. They invited human representatives to visit their space station, which they called the Center of Peace. The station was located just outside Earth's solar system, close enough for human ships to reach. Captain Jake Sullivan was chosen to command the security detail for the diplomatic mission. He was a career military officer who had served in conflicts around the world. As he prepared his team aboard the USS Liberty, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. "I don't like it," he told his second-in-command commander, Amy Foster. "They show up out of nowhere, speaking perfect English, and want to be our friends? It's too convenient." Amy nodded. "I agree, sir. But the politicians are excited about the advanced technology they're offering." The technology was impressive. The aliens had sent sample devices that could generate unlimited clean energy, cure diseases, and even extend human life. Dr. Lisa Brown, Earth's chief scientist on the mission, was amazed by what she saw. "This is incredible," she told Claire as they prepared to leave Earth. Their medical technology could eliminate cancer, heart disease, even aging itself. And their energy systems could solve climate change overnight. "It sounds too good to be true," Claire said. "Maybe," Lisa replied, "but if it's real, we have to try." The USS Liberty launched on a bright morning, carrying 50 of Earth's best diplomats, scientists, and soldiers. As they traveled toward the alien space station, the crew watched the stars with wonder and excitement. The Galactic Council's space station was enormous. It was the size of a small city, with gleaming metal walls and thousands of lights. As the USS Liberty approached, Captain Sullivan felt his unease growing. "That's not a diplomatic station," he told Amy. "That's a fortress." Chancellor Marthick of the Altarian Federation greeted the human delegation personally. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. His voice was smooth and friendly, but something about his smile made Claire uncomfortable. "Welcome, humans," he said, spreading his arms wide. "We are so pleased to finally meet you. Your species has great potential." The council's representatives were from different alien species, but they all seemed to share the same attitude. They were polite but condescending, treating the humans like children who needed guidance. "Your world is beautiful," said Counselor Vexter, a reptilian being with sharp teeth. "But it is also dangerous. There are many hostile species in the galaxy who would harm peaceful beings like yourselves. We can protect you," added Counselor Yelena, whose species looked like tall, graceful insects. "But first, you must join our community properly." The council showed the humans around their station. It was filled with advanced technology and beautiful art, but Captain Sullivan noticed something troubling. There were many different alien species on the station, but only the council members seemed to be in charge. The others worked as servants, guards, and laborers. "Who are those people?" Jake asked Chancellor Morthic, pointing to a group of small, furry aliens cleaning the floors. "Oh, them," Morthic said casually. "They are the Cathari. They joined our community several decades ago. They are very happy to contribute to our society." But Jake noticed that the Cathari didn't look happy. They kept their heads down and moved quickly, as if afraid of being noticed. During the formal negotiations, Chancellor Morthic laid out the council's offer. Humanity would receive advanced technology, medical knowledge, and protection from hostile aliens. In return, they would join the galactic community and follow the council's rules. "What kind of rules?" Claire asked. "Simple ones," Morthic replied. "All member species must give up their weapons and military forces. Violence has no place in a peaceful community." Claire felt a chill run down her spine. "Give up all our weapons? Our entire military? Of course," Counselor Vexter said. "What need do you have for weapons when the Council protects you? It is standard procedure for all new members." "We will need to discuss this with our governments," Claire said carefully. "Naturally." Morthic smiled. "But please understand, this is not negotiable. All species who join our community must disarm completely. It is for everyone's safety." That night, Colonel Ben Parker couldn't sleep. He was the mission's intelligence officer, and something about the council bothered him. He decided to do some. Investigating Dot using his portable scanner, Ben began monitoring the council's communications. Most of their messages were in alien languages, but his computer could translate some of them. What he found made his blood run cold. The council's private messages revealed their true nature. They weren't peaceful diplomats. They were slavers who had been conquering and enslaving species for thousands of years. Their method was always the same. Approach a species with offers of peace and technology, demand disarmament, then take control. Species 847 has been fully integrated. Read. One message. Labor efficiency is up 23% since we eliminated their leadership. Another message was even worse. The humans show promise. Their physical strength and endurance will make them excellent workers. Recommend immediate disarmament and integration. Ben realized that the council had been lying from the beginning. They didn't want to help humanity. They wanted to enslave them. He quietly woke Captain Sullivan and showed him the intercepted messages. Jake's face grew dark as he read them. "We have to warn Earth," Jake said. "We will," Ben replied. "But first, we need to get out of here alive." The next morning, Claire met with Chancellor Morthic for the final negotiation session. She had spent the night thinking about the Council's demands, and she had made her decision. "We appreciate your offer," she said, "but humanity cannot accept your terms. We will not disarm her military forces." Morthic's friendly smile disappeared. "I'm sorry to hear that. Are you sure you won't reconsider?" "We're sure." The Chancellor's black eyes seemed to grow darker. "That is unfortunate. You see, membership in the Galactic Council is not actually optional for species in this region of space. What do you mean? I mean that you will join us willingly, or you will join us by force. A choice is yours. Claire stood up. This meeting is over. Yes, Morthic said quietly. It is. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Captain Sullivan noticed that the Council's guards were moving into position around the docking bay. The friendly aliens had suddenly become very hostile. Move fast, Jake told his team. We need to get off this station now. The USS Liberty launched from the Council station under heavy fire. The aliens had dropped all pretense of friendship. They were trying to capture or destroy the human ship. All power to engines, Jake ordered. Get us out of here. As they fled toward Earth, Claire looked back at the massive alien station. She had come hoping to make friends for humanity. Instead, she had discovered that Earth faced a terrible enemy. The galaxy was not the peaceful place the Council had pretended it was. It was ruled by slavers who saw humans as their next victims, but they had made one mistake. They had assumed that humans would be as easy to conquer as the other species they had. Enslaved Dot, they were about to learn how wrong they were. The USS Liberty limped back to Earth with half its systems damaged. Captain Jake Sullivan had managed to get his crew away from the Council station, but the aliens had made their intentions clear. The friendly mask was gone forever. Earth Command. This is Liberty, Jake spoke into the radio. We are returning with urgent information. The Council is not what they claim to be. General Mike Davis was waiting when the Liberty docked at Earth's orbital station. He had been in charge of Earth's military for 15 years, and he had never seen Captain Sullivan look so grim. What happened up there? General Davis asked. They're slavers, Jake replied. The whole peaceful community story is a lie. They've been conquering species for thousands of years. Ambassador Claire Watson was already on her way to address the United Nations. The alien betrayal had shaken her, but she was determined to warn humanity about the danger they faced. Members of the General Assembly, she began. I stand before you today to report that first contact with alien life has not gone as we hoped. The Galactic Council is not our friend. They are our enemy. The Assembly Hall erupted in shocked voices. Representatives from every nation on Earth demanded to know what had happened. They want to enslave us, Claire continued. They've done it to hundreds of other species. They offer friendship and technology, then demand we give up our weapons. Once we're defenseless, they take control. President Kate Johnson stood up. What proof do we have? Colonel Ben Parker stepped forward. I intercepted their private communications. They've been planning this from the beginning. They see humans as strong workers for their slave camps. Ben activated a holographic display showing the alien messages he had decoded. The assembled leaders read in horror about the Council's true plans for humanity. Species integration proceeding as planned, one message read. Human physical capabilities exceed expectations. Recommend immediate harvesting of population centers. My God, whispered the French president. They're talking about us like we're cattle. The evidence was overwhelming. The Council had enslaved over 200 species, forcing them to work in terrible conditions. Entire worlds had been strip-mined to feed the Council's endless appetite for resources. What do we do? Asked the Japanese Prime Minister. We prepare for war, General Davis said simply. They've made their choice. Now we make ours. But preparing for war would not be easy. The Council had technology that was centuries ahead of anything on Earth. Their ships were faster and more powerful than anything humans had built. Dr. Lisa Brown, who had escaped the Council station with the others, was working frantically to analyze the alien technology they had seen. Their weapons are based on energy manipulation, she told the assembled scientists. But their defenses might have weaknesses we can exploit. Commander Amy Foster was coordinating Earth's space defenses. We have 47 military ships ready for combat, she reported. But intelligence suggests the Council has over 1,000 ships in this region of space. The odds were terrible, but humans had faced terrible odds before. 3 days after the Liberty's return, the Council made their move. A massive fleet of alien ships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. They came not as friends, but as conquerors. Chancellor Morthick's voice echoed across every communication channel on Earth. Humans of Earth, you have made a foolish choice. You rejected our generous offer of peaceful integration. Now you will be integrated by force. Surrender immediately, the message continued. Lay down your weapons and submit to Council authority. Those who cooperate will be treated well. Those who resist will be eliminated. President Johnson's response was broadcast from the White House. To Chancellor Morthick and the Galactic Council, humanity rejects your demands. We will not surrender. We will not submit. We will fight. The Council's response was swift and brutal. They attacked Earth's outer colonies without warning, destroying research stations and mining facilities. Thousands of innocent people died. In the first assault, Captain Sullivan watched the destruction from the bridge of his new ship, the USS Defiance. Those bastards, he said quietly. They're not even trying to capture the colonies. They're just killing everyone. It's a message. Commander Foster replied. They're trying to scare us into surrendering. Then they don't understand humans very well, Jake said. We don't scare easily. The attacks on the outer colonies did not break human resolve. Instead, they made humanity angry. Every nation on Earth began mobilizing for war. Factories switched to making weapons and ships. Scientists worked around the clock to develop new technologies. Major Tony Lewis was leading reconnaissance missions to gather intelligence on the Council fleet. His small, fast ships could slip past alien patrols and observe their formations. They're overconfident, he reported to General Davis. They're not even trying to hide their positions. They think we're too weak to fight back. Good, the general replied. Let them keep thinking that. But the Council had one advantage that worried Earth's leaders. They had hostages. During the attack on the outer colonies, they had captured several thousand human prisoners, including many scientists and engineers. Among the prisoners was Dr. Lisa Brown. She had been on a research station when the Council attacked. Now she was trapped on an alien ship, surrounded by enemies. The alien guard pushed her into a cell with other human prisoners. The cell was small and dark, with barely enough room for everyone to sit down. Are you hurt? Asked one of the other prisoners, a young engineer named Pete Wilson. No, Lisa replied, but I don't think they captured us to be nice to us. Pete nodded grimly. They're using us as workers, making us repair their ships and maintain their equipment. Anyone who refuses gets... He didn't finish the sentence. Lisa looked around the cell. There were about 20 humans crammed into the small space. They all looked tired and scared, but not defeated. We need to find a way out of here, she whispered. Impossible, said another prisoner. The ship is massive. Even if we could get out of the cell, where would we go? Lisa smiled grimly. We'd find a way to hurt them. That's what humans do. Back on Earth, Intelligence Officer Sam Wright was working to decode more of the Council's communications. What he found was disturbing, but also encouraging. General, he reported to Mike Davis, I've been analyzing their internal messages. They're not as unified as they pretend to be. What do you mean? There are cracks in their empire. Some of the enslaved species are starting to rebel. There have been uprisings on several worlds. General Davis studied the intelligence reports. Are you saying we might have allies? Maybe, if we can find a way to contact them. The idea was risky, but appealing. If humanity could coordinate with rebellious alien species, they might have a chance against the Council's superior numbers. Colonel Ben Parker was assigned to lead a secret mission to make contact with potential allies. "It's dangerous," he told. His team will be flying into Council territory with no backup. "We've done dangerous things before," replied Lieutenant Kate Miller, his communications expert. "Besides, we need all the help we can get." As Earth prepared for the inevitable invasion, stories began to emerge from the alien fleet. The Council was not treating their enslaved crews well. Many alien species were forced to fight against their will, threatened with the destruction of their home worlds if they disobeyed. "They're not loyal soldiers," Captain Sullivan observed. "They're hostages forced to fight." "That could work in our favor," Commander Foster agreed. "If we can convince them we're not the enemy, they might turn against the Council." The Council's propaganda machine was working overtime, broadcasting messages throughout the galaxy claiming that humanity had attacked them without provocation. They portrayed themselves as the victims of human aggression, but some species weren't buying the official story. On distant worlds, aliens who had suffered under Council rule were beginning to whisper about the humans who had refused to surrender. "Maybe," they said quietly, "someone is finally strong enough to fight back." Chancellor Morthic was growing frustrated with the delay. He had expected Earth to surrender immediately after the destruction of their outer colonies. Instead, the humans seemed to be getting ready for war. "How long before our main fleet arrives?" he asked his military commander. 2 weeks, General Vexler replied. "But Chancellor, perhaps we should reconsider. The humans are not behaving like other species we've conquered. They're primitives," Morthic snapped. "They have a few dozen ships. We have over 1,000. They cannot possibly win." "But they seem to think they can," Vexler said quietly. "That worries me." The Chancellor's eyes grew cold. "Then we will show them how wrong they are. When our main fleet arrives, we will destroy their planet entirely. We will make an example of them that will keep other species from getting ideas about rebellion." Unknown to the Council, their communications were being monitored by Ben Parker's intelligence team. Every threat, every plan, every cruel decision was being recorded and transmitted back to Earth. "They're planning to destroy the entire planet," Ben reported to President Johnson. "Not just conquer it, destroy it." The president's face was grim. "And we have nothing left to lose. If they're going to try to kill us all anyway, we might as well fight as hard as we can." A message went out to every human military unit, every government, every citizen. The aliens were not rude. The Council's invasion fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Over 1,000 ships stretched across space like a dark storm cloud, each one bristling with weapons capable of destroying cities. Chancellor Morthic stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. The small blue planet looked so peaceful, so helpless. He smiled at the thought of adding another world to his collection. "Begin the demonstration," he ordered his weapons officer. The fleet opened fire on Earth's moon. Massive energy beams struck the lunar surface, creating explosions that could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. The moon didn't break apart, but the message was clear. The Council could destroy anything they wanted. On Earth, President Kate Johnson watched the attack from the White House bunker. The images coming from the moon were terrifying. The alien weapons were more powerful than anything humanity had ever seen. "How long do we have?" she asked General Mike Davis. "They're not trying to destroy us yet," the general replied. "This is psychological warfare. They want us to surrender without fighting. Will it work?" General Davis looked at the reports coming in from around the world. Every nation was mobilizing. Every citizen was preparing for war. "No, Madam President, it won't work." Chancellor Morthic's voice echoed across every communication channel on Earth. His words were broadcast to every television, every radio, every computer on the planet. "Humans of Earth," he began, "you have seen our power. Your moon bears the scars of our weapons. Your outer colonies lie in ruins. Your people are our prisoners. But we are not without mercy," he continued. "We offer you one final chance for peace. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to survive. You will work for us, serve us, and in return, you will live." The images that accompanied his words showed other worlds that had been conquered by the Council. Alien species working in massive factories, mining dangerous materials, building ships for their conquerors. The workers looked tired, broken, hopeless. "This is the fate that awaits you," Morthic said. "You will be slaves, but you will be living slaves. Continue to resist, and you will be dead heroes. The choice is yours." President Johnson's response was broadcast just 1 hour later. She stood in the Oval Office, flanked by military leaders from every branch of service. Her voice was calm but firm. "Chancellor Morthic, you have made your offer. Now hear our response. The United States of America, speaking for all humanity, rejects your ultimatum. We will not surrender. We will not submit. We will fight. You call us primitives," she continued, "but you misunderstand what that means. We are not primitive because we are weak. We are primitive because we have not yet learned to accept defeat." The speech was repeated in every language on earth. From the halls of the United Nations to the smallest villages, the message was the same. Humanity would not go quietly into slavery. The Council's response was swift and brutal. They attacked Earth's research station on Mars, the same station where Dr. Lisa Brown was being held prisoner. The humans watching from Earth could only stare in horror as the station exploded in a ball of fire. Captain Jake Sullivan watched the destruction from the bridge of the USS Defiance. "Lisa was on that station," he said quietly. Commander Amy Foster put a hand on his shoulder. "She knew the risks. We all do." "The bastards didn't even try to evacuate the prisoners," Jake said. "They just murdered everyone." "That's who we're fighting," Amy replied. "That's why we have to win." The destruction of the Mars station was meant to break human morale. Instead, it had the opposite effect. The casual murder of helpless prisoners showed the galaxy exactly what kind of beings the Council really were. Major Tony Lewis was leading a scouting mission near the alien fleet when he intercepted a communication that made him smile grimly. "Command, this is Lewis. I'm picking up internal communications from the Council fleet. They're not happy." "What do you mean?" came General Davis's voice. "The enslaved crews are starting to question their orders. Some of them are refusing to fire on civilian targets. The Council is having to use their own people to crew the weapons." This was the first crack in the Council's perfect facade. The enslaved species who made up most of their fleet were beginning to realize that they were being used to commit genocide. On one of the Council ships, a group of Cathari workers were whispering among themselves. They had been enslaved for decades, forced to maintain the ship's engines and weapons. But the attack on the Mars station had shaken them. "They killed the prisoners," one of them said. "They didn't even try to save them." "The humans are fighting back," another whispered. "No species has ever fought back before." "Maybe," said a third, "someone is finally strong enough to stand up to them." The conversation was dangerous. If the Council guards heard them, they would be executed. But something was changing in the alien fleet. Hope was spreading like a virus. Intelligence Officer Sam Wright was monitoring these communications from Earth. "General," he reported, "we're seeing signs of unrest throughout their fleet. The enslaved crews are starting to rebel." "How many ships are affected?" General Davis asked. "It's hard to say. Maybe 100, maybe more. But the Council is having to divide their attention between fighting us and controlling their own people. This was exactly what humanity had been hoping for. The Council's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. They had built their empire on the backs of enslaved species, and those species were beginning to remember what freedom felt like. Colonel Ben Parker was preparing for the most dangerous mission of his life. He was going to try to make contact with the rebel crews in the Council fleet. If he could coordinate with them, humanity might have a chance. "This is suicide," his second-in-command, Lieutenant Kate Miller, told him. "You're flying into the middle of their fleet with no backup." "Maybe," Ben replied. "But if we can turn even a few of their ships against them, it might make the difference." "And if you're captured?" Ben smiled grimly. "Then I'll try to cause as much trouble as possible before they kill me." The mission launched in secret. Ben's ship was small and fast, designed to slip past enemy sensors. As he approached the Council fleet, he could see the massive ships spread out across space like a metal constellation. "This is Colonel Ben Parker of Earth." He broadcast on a frequency the rebels had been using. "I'm looking for friends." The response came quickly. "Human ship, this is the Kethari vessel Broken Chain. We hear you. We want to help." Ben felt a surge of hope. Maybe this crazy plan would work after all. On Earth, the final preparations for war were underway. Every able-bodied human was either in the military or working to support the war effort. Factories ran 24 hours a day, producing weapons and ships. Dr. Amy Foster, Lisa Brown's replacement as chief scientist, was working on a new type of weapon based on the alien technology they had captured. "It's not as powerful as their weapons," she explained to General Davis, "but it might be enough to hurt them." "How many can we produce?" 50, maybe 60. "And that's if we strip every other project for parts." General Davis nodded. "Do it. We'll need every advantage we can get." The Council was growing impatient. They had given humanity a week to surrender, and that week was almost over. Chancellor Morthick called his war council together. "The humans continue to defy us," he said. "Very well. We will show them what happens to species that refuse to submit. Begin the assault." "Sir," General Vexter interrupted, "we're having some problems with crew reliability. Some of the enslaved species are refusing orders." "Then execute them," Morthick snapped. "Use only Council personnel for critical operations." But this was easier said than done. The Council's own people made up only a small fraction of their fleet. Most of their ships were crewed by enslaved species who were becoming increasingly unreliable. As the Council fleet moved toward Earth, they began to encounter human resistance. Small groups of Earth ships would appear, attack, and disappear before the aliens could respond. "They're using hidden-run tactics," reported one Council captain. "They won't engage us directly." "Cowards," Morthick replied. "When we reach their planet, they'll have nowhere to run." But the human tactics were working. Each attack damaged Council ships and forced them to waste time and resources on repairs. More importantly, each attack was being broadcast to enslaved crews throughout the fleet. "The humans are brave," whispered a Yeltari engineer to his work crew. "They're not afraid to fight, even when they're outnumbered." "Maybe," replied his supervisor, "we should stop being afraid too." The rebellion was spreading. On ship after ship, enslaved crews were sabotaging systems, refusing orders, and even attacking their Council overseers. The perfect fleet was falling apart from within. Captain Sullivan was leading one of the human attack groups when he received an unexpected message. "Human ship, this is the Council vessel Retribution. We have taken control of this ship. We want to join your fight." Jake looked at his crew in amazement. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. We are the Vorth Eye. We have been slaves for 300 years. We want to be free." Similar messages were coming from across the Council fleet. Enslaved species were rising up, taking control of their ships and joining the human cause. "This is incredible," Commander Foster said. "We're not just fighting the Council anymore. We're leading a rev." The message came from the most unexpected source. Dr. Lisa Brown was supposed to be dead, killed when the Council destroyed the Mars research station. But she was very much alive, and she had discovered something that would change everything. Earth. "Command, this is Dr. Lisa Brown." Her voice crackled through the communication system. "I'm broadcasting from inside the Council flagship. I have critical information." General Mike Davis nearly dropped his coffee. "Lisa, you're alive?" "Barely," she replied. "But I've learned something important. The Council isn't as powerful as they pretend to be. Their entire empire is built on a lie." Lisa had survived the destruction of the Mars station by hiding in a sealed emergency pod. The Council had recovered her pod, thinking she was dead. When they found her alive, they decided to use her as a slave worker instead of killing her. "They put me to work in their computer systems," she explained. "I've been pretending to be a broken prisoner while actually studying their technology and their history." What Lisa had discovered was shocking. The Council had been ruling the galaxy for thousands of years, but they had done it through deception, not strength. They had never actually conquered a species that fought back effectively. "Every species they've enslaved was peaceful," Lisa continued. "They've spent centuries avoiding contact with any civilization that might pose a real threat. They're not warriors. They're cowards who pick on the weak." Intelligence officer Sam Wright was recording every word. "What about their technology? Their weapons?" "Most of it is stolen," Lisa replied. "They didn't invent these weapons. They stole them from the species they enslaved. The Council members themselves are actually quite primitive." This revelation changed everything. The humans had been fighting what they thought was a technologically superior enemy. But in reality, they were fighting slavers who had never faced real resistance. "There's more," Lisa said. "The enslaved species outnumber the Council by thousands to one. They've been waiting for someone strong enough to lead a rebellion." Colonel Ben Parker, who was still coordinating with rebel ships in the Council fleet, confirmed what Lisa was saying. "She's right. The enslaved crews are telling me they've been hoping for this day for centuries." "How many species are enslaved?" President Kate Johnson asked. "Over 300, Lisa replied. "And they're all ready to fight if someone shows them it's possible to win." The scope of the Council's crimes was staggering. They had enslaved entire civilizations, stripped their worlds of resources, and forced countless beings to live in misery. But they had also made a fatal mistake. They had kept all their victims alive and in one place. "We're not just fighting for Earth," General Davis realized. "We're fighting to free the entire galaxy." Captain Jake Sullivan was leading the human fleet when he received a coded message from Lisa. She had found a way to contact the enslaved species throughout the Council's territory, not just the ones in the invasion fleet. "Jake, you need to broadcast a message to the whole galaxy," Lisa said. "Tell them that humanity is fighting back. Tell them it's time to rise up." "What should I say?" "Tell them we're not surrendering. Tell them we're showing the galaxy that the Council can be beaten." Jake thought about it for a moment. Then he opened a channel that would broadcast to every world in Council space. "This is Captain Jake Sullivan of the Earth Defense Force," he began. "We're speaking to all enslaved peoples throughout the galaxy. The Council told you that resistance is hopeless. They lied. Humanity refuses to surrender," he continued. "We're fighting back, and we're winning. The time has come for all free beings to stand up and reclaim their worlds." The response was immediate and overwhelming. On worlds throughout the galaxy, enslaved species began rising up against their Council overseers. Factories stopped producing weapons for the Council. Mining operations shut down. Transport ships refused to carry supplies. It's a galaxy-wide rebellion, Sam Wright reported in amazement. Every world under Council control is seeing uprisings. Major Tony Lewis was coordinating with rebel ships when he received a shocking report. General, we just got word from the Altair system. The enslaved species there have taken control of 3 Council shipyards. What about the ships under construction? They're joining the rebellion. We're talking about hundreds of ships, sir. The Council's empire was collapsing. Chancellor Morthik watched in horror as reports poured in from across his territory. World after world was declaring independence. Ship after ship was joining the rebels. How is this possible? He raged. These species have been enslaved for centuries. They know the price of rebellion. General Vexler looked at the tactical displays. Half the Council fleet was now in open rebellion. The other half was fighting to contain uprisings on their own. Ships, Chancellor, he said quietly, perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans. Negotiate? Morthik's voice was filled with outrage. We are the Galactic Council. We do not negotiate with primitives. But the primitives were winning. Earth's defenses were holding against the Council assault, while rebel ships attacked from behind. The Council forces were caught between 2 enemies and losing badly. Dr. Amy Foster, working in Earth's main laboratory, had been analyzing the alien technology captured from rebel ships. General, she reported to Mike Davis, their weapons aren't as advanced as we thought. Most of their advantages come from superior numbers, not superior technology. What are you saying? I'm saying we can build weapons that are just as good as theirs. Maybe better. If we can get the materials from the rebel worlds, we can outfit a fleet that can match them ship for ship. The materials were already on their way. Rebel worlds were sending supply ships to Earth, carrying rare metals and advanced components. The galaxy's enslaved peoples were eager to help humanity build the fleet that would free them all. Lieutenant Kate Miller was working with Ben Parker to coordinate the rebellion. Colonel, we're getting reports of successful uprisings on over 50 worlds. The Council is losing control of their empire. Good, Ben replied, but we need to keep the pressure on. If we give them time to regroup, they might find a way to crush the rebellion. The pressure was indeed mounting. On Earth, every human was working to support the war effort. Factories that had once made cars now made spaceships. Scientists who had studied medicine now designed weapons. Commander Amy Foster was training pilots to fly the new ships being built with alien technology. These ships are faster and more maneuverable than anything we've had before, she told her trainees. But they're also more complex. You'll need to learn systems that are completely different from human technology. The pilots were eager to learn. They knew that the future of their species, and the freedom of countless others, depended on their ability to master these new weapons. On the Council flagship, Chancellor Morthik was facing a crisis of confidence. His advisors were beginning to question his leadership. Some were even suggesting that they should retreat and try to salvage what remained of their empire. The humans have turned our own strength against us, Counselor Yelena said during an emergency meeting. Every species we enslaved is now our enemy. It's temporary, Morthik insisted. Once we crush the human homeworld, the rebellion will collapse. And if we can't crush them? Asked Counselor Zektal, a newcomer to the councils. Inner circle. Then we will all die, Morthik said simply. Because if this rebellion succeeds, every species in the galaxy will hunt us down for what we've done to them. The Chancellor was right about one thing. The enslaved species were not interested in forgiveness. They had suffered for centuries under Council rule, and they wanted justice. Dr. Lisa Brown had been working with the rebel crews to gather evidence of the Council's crimes. Jake, what I'm finding here is horrific, she reported. They've destroyed entire civilizations, wiped out species that refused to serve them. The death toll is in the billions. Then we make sure they pay for it, Jake replied. The evidence was overwhelming. The Council had committed genocide on a galactic scale. They had destroyed any species that showed signs of becoming a threat. They had enslaved children, forced families apart, and treated entire worlds as their personal property. This isn't just a war, President Johnson said during a cabinet meeting. It's a reckoning. The galaxy is demanding justice for thousands of years of oppression. A final phase of the rebellion was beginning. Rebel fleets from dozens of worlds were converging on the Council's core systems. Earth's new ships, built with alien technology and human determination, were leading the charge. All ships. This is Admiral Beth Collins, came the voice of Jake's former second-in-command, who had been promoted to lead the combined fleet. Today, we don't just fight for Earth. We fight for every enslaved being in the galaxy. The response from the rebel ships was overwhelming. Voices in dozens of alien languages expressed their readiness to fight for freedom. Chancellor Morthic made one last desperate attempt to save his empire. He broadcast a message to all rebel forces, offering pardons and improved conditions for any species that would return to Council rule. You have made your point, he said. The Council is willing to negotiate better terms for your service. Return to your duties, and you will be treated fairly. The response came from Captain Sullivan. Speaking for all rebel forces, Chancellor Morthic, you've had thousands of years too. The final battle began at dawn on Earth, though in space there was no dawn or dusk, only the endless dance of stars and ships. Admiral Beth Collins stood on the bridge of the ESS Liberation, flagship of the largest rebel fleet ever assembled. All ships report ready, Commander Amy Foster announced. Around them, thousands of vessels stretched across space. Human ships flew alongside rebel craft from hundreds of worlds. Former enemies had become allies in the fight for freedom. Today we end this, Beth said into the fleet communication system. Today we free the galaxy. The Council's homeworld was protected by massive defense stations and energy shields. But the rebels had advantages the Council hadn't expected. They had Dr. Lisa Brown's intelligence about weak points in the defenses. They had the fury of enslaved peoples fighting for their freedom. And they had humanity's refusal to accept defeat. President Kate Johnson addressed not just Earth, but every rebel world in the galaxy. To all free peoples fighting today, remember what we're fighting for. We're not fighting for conquest or revenge. We're fighting so that no being will ever again be forced to bow to tyrants. The Council's defenses opened fire as the rebel fleet approached. Massive energy beams lanced out, destroying dozens of ships in the first volley. But the rebels kept coming. Captain Jake Sullivan led the first attack wave. His ship, the USS Vengeance, had been built with technology from a dozen different alien species. It was fast, powerful, and crewed by humans who had learned to hate the Council with every fiber of their being. Remember, Jake told his crew, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who couldn't fight back. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Council ships fought desperately, knowing that defeat meant the end of their empire. Rebel ships pressed forward, knowing that victory meant freedom for countless enslaved beings. Major Tony Lewis was leading a squadron of human fighters when he received an urgent message from Dr. Lisa Brown. She was still aboard the Council flagship, still gathering intelligence. Tony, I've found something, she said. The Council has a final weapon. If they're losing, they'll try to destroy their own homeworld rather than let it fall to rebels. Can you stop them? Maybe, but I'll need a distraction. Something big enough to draw their attention away from me. Tony smiled grimly. I think we can manage that. He led his fighters in a direct assault on the Council flagship. It was a suicide mission, but it gave Lisa the time she needed to sabotage. The planet-killing weapon. The tide of battle was turning. Rebel ships were breaking through the Council's outer defenses. On the surface of the Council homeworld, enslaved workers were rising up and attacking their overseers. Chancellor Morthic watched his empire crumble from his command center deep beneath the planet's surface. How did it come to this? He asked his remaining advisors. We underestimated them, General Vextha replied. We thought the humans would be like all the others, weak, frightened, easy to control. But they weren't. No, they were something we'd never encountered before. A species that would rather die free than live as slaves. The Chancellor's face was filled with rage and desperation. Ben will give them death. Activate the planetary destruction device. But when his technicians tried to fire the weapon, nothing happened. Dr. Lisa Brown's sabotage had worked perfectly. The weapon is offline, reported a technician. Someone has destroyed the primary control systems. Morthic's eyes filled with fury. Find them. Find whoever did this and execute them. But it was too late. Rebel forces were landing on the planet's surface. The final assault had begun. General Mike Davis led the ground forces personally. At 65 years old, he was too old to be leading troops into combat, but he had insisted on being part of the mission that would end the Council's reign of terror. This is for every innocent being they enslaved, he said as his troops advanced. On the Council's main compound, the fighting was brutal. Council guards fought with the desperation of beings who knew they would receive no mercy. But they were outnumbered and outgunned by rebels who had waited centuries for this moment. Colonel Ben Parker and intelligence. Officer Sam Wright led a special team to capture the Council's leadership. They had studied the compound's layout for weeks, planning every move. Remember, Ben told his team, we want them alive. The galaxy deserves to see them put on trial for their crimes. They fought their way through corridors filled with Council guards and automated defenses. The compound was like a fortress, but human determination and alien technology proved unstoppable. Dr. Amy Foster was coordinating the space battle from Earth when she received word that the ground assault was succeeding. All rebel ships, the surface teams are advancing. Continue your attack on the orbital defenses. In space, the battle was reaching its climax. Most of the Council fleet had been destroyed or had surrendered. The massive defense stations were falling one by one to rebel attacks. Commander Amy Foster, now captain of her own ship, led a group of vessels in the final assault on the Council's command station. This is for everyone they hurt, she said, as her weapons fired. On the Council flagship, Dr. Lisa Brown was fighting her way toward the bridge. She had spent weeks pretending to be a broken prisoner while actually preparing for this moment. Now she was leading a group of rebel slaves in an attack on their former masters. This way, she told the rebels as they moved through the ship's corridors. The main computer is just ahead. They reached the computer core and began downloading critical information about the Council's operations. Evidence of their crimes, locations of hidden facilities, names of collaborators. Everything needed to ensure that justice would be served. Chancellor Morthic made one final attempt to escape. He and his closest advisors tried to reach a hidden shuttle bay, hoping to flee to a distant star system where they could rebuild their power. But Colonel Ben Parker and his team were waiting for them. Going somewhere? Ben asked as Council guards raised their weapons. The final firefight was brief but intense. The Council guards were well-trained and desperate, but they were no match for human soldiers who had trained their entire lives for war. When the smoke cleared, Chancellor Morthic and his advisors were prisoners. The beings who had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years were finally in chains. The mighty Galactic Council, Ben said, looking at the captured leaders. You don't look so mighty now. Morthic's voice was filled with hatred. You think you've won? You've destroyed the order that kept the galaxy stable. Without us, chaos will reign. Maybe, Ben replied, but it will be our chaos, not yours. The battle was over. Across the galaxy, news of the Council's defeat spread like wildfire. On world after world, enslaved beings celebrated their freedom. The nightmare that had lasted for millennia was finally over. President Johnson spoke to the galaxy from the White House. Today marks the end of the Galactic Council's reign of terror. But more importantly, it marks the beginning of a new age of freedom and cooperation among all species. The victory celebration was bittersweet. Millions had died in the fighting, including many humans who had given their lives for galactic freedom. Major Tony Lewis had died in his attack on the Council flagship. Thousands of other brave souls had made the ultimate sacrifice, but their deaths had not been in vain. The galaxy was freed. Admiral Beth Collins stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out at the Council homeworld. The planet was in chaos, but it was the chaos of liberation, not destruction. Former slaves were emerging from underground factories and prison camps, blinking in sunlight they hadn't seen for years. What happens now? Commander Foster asked. Now we rebuild, Beth replied. We help these worlds establish their own governments. We make sure nothing like the Council ever rises again. The task ahead was enormous. Hundreds of worlds needed help establishing new governance. Millions of enslaved beings needed to be relocated to their home planets. The Council's vast empire needed to be dismantled carefully to avoid chaos, but humanity was up to the task. They had proven that they could fight when necessary. Now they would prove that they could build when the fighting was done. Dr. Lisa Brown, rescued from the Council flagship, was put in charge of the reconstruction effort. We need to be careful, she warned the new Galactic Assembly. Power corrupts. We can't let ourselves become what we just destroyed. The former Council leaders were put on trial for their crimes. The proceedings were broadcast throughout the galaxy, ensuring that every being could see justice being served. Chancellor Morthic's final words before his sentencing were filled with bitterness. You call this justice? You're destroyers. You've brought down a civilization that lasted for thousands of years. The judge, a representative from one of the enslaved species, responded calmly. You're right. We have destroyed your civilization because your civilization was built on the suffering of others. That's not civilization. That's barbarism. Morthic and his followers were sentenced to life imprisonment on a remote world where they would harm no one ever again. They would spend their remaining years thinking about the countless lives they had destroyed. The galaxy began to heal. New governments were established on liberated worlds. Trade agreements were signed between species that had been enemies for centuries. Art, science, and culture flourished as beings were free to pursue their dreams instead of serving.